This week you'll be learning about why content optimization is so important, and then from there we go on to learning the how. But before we begin, it's really important to start understanding the role content plays leading up to and after the conversion. So let's start by looking at the conversion funnel. We have 2 points, the start and the end. Really simple. So the top of funnel requires content to extend your reach. It's where in most cases the first interaction happens between your company's brand and the user. So at this stage, the user is more than likely not ready to purchase. So the content you're creating needs to be building trust rather than trying to make that sale. The objective for this top of funnel content is to draw the user in by presenting valuable content behind a gated form. And this can be in the form of a newsletter email subscription, a valuable white paper, or deeper research relating to the content that they're busy reading. So this content is the hook, and it gets the user to submit the email address from which they get access to your exclusive content. Once we have that email address, that's when you start sending the user on a journey. The journey ultimately is to get the user to purchase from you. Every user has their own decision-making process, and so timing is everything. However, we need to try and understand at which stage the user engages so we can push the right content or the right sales message at the right time. At WebGrowth, we have a few ways to capture the email address. Further up the funnel, we use a career guide to establish that trust. Towards the bottom of the funnel, we have our info packs that we have behind gated content, like a download page. Every page on your website needs an objective. Why is this so important? Well, unfortunately, not even in a perfect world can every page be positioned to collect a lead. But if the objectives are clear, we will know how each page fits into the architecture of your website. So not every page needs to be able to capture a lead. That's important. They all serve different purposes. So whether it's a supporting blog post that gets socially shared, which then links back to a content pillar to help its page authority, or perhaps a content pillar itself to help drive search traffic, we need to know this before we start developing the content. Otherwise, we fall into a reactive, knee-jerk action approach. Why? Because you won't have any traffic back to your website, so you resort to paid advertising to drive those sales. Now, you're trying to drive sales, but you haven't resolved your content issue. So your PPC or Facebook campaign falls flat. Why? Because you haven't established that trust with the user through your content. So your content needs to educate, it needs to build trust, and it needs to get the user back to your website and push the user down the funnel towards that conversion. This can take a few weeks to a few years. But like any salesperson will tell you, the more opportunities you have in the sales pipeline, the higher the likelihood of making more sales. So it's essentially a numbers game, right? So obviously we are focused on building traction through traffic and then optimizing the process to decrease the cost per lead or the cost per acquisition. For you to become really effective at building traction, you need to look at the content optimization process. This process of content optimization puts you in a better place to build traction in our main traffic channels, which is SEO, social media, paid advertising, and email, which means more traffic. Without content optimization, you could be pouring money into a black hole. So what does content optimization look like? Let's go back to a previous topic I've spoken about, which is search intent and social interest. Together with the performance formula, clickability times shareability times distribution, we need to understand why we need to optimize and what we need to optimize for. To keep it simple, let's focus on 3 types of content according to a user's buying stage: top, middle, and bottom of the funnel content. Top of the funnel content, which it's a very broad industry related piece of content that isn't specific to your product or service. The user is reading the content because they have an interest in the industry news or a related topic that you obviously your industry is within. So middle of the funnel content is more tactical content that indirectly speaks to your service or product. The user is more likely to be in the research phase and is getting closer to that purchasing decision. Bottom of the funnel content are your product or service landing pages. So remember, they are called your money pages. I want to start introducing some high-level KPIs which you can start to process. So by the time we hit week 8, they won't be too foreign to you in terms of these jargon words. Let's take a look closer at what these are. So starting with search intent, top of funnel KPIs, shareability to social platforms, clickability from the search results pages, middle of the funnel KPIs, keyword ranking, shareability to social platforms, lead generation from gated content, clickability from the search results pages, and then finally the bottom of the funnel KPIs, conversion sales or lead generation, and keyword ranking. So those are just a few examples. I'm sure there are a lot more which you can add to that list. So let's move on to social interest. So top of funnel KPIs, shareability to social platforms, clickability from social platforms, clickability from emailers, and then middle of the funnel KPIs, shareability to social platforms, shareability on the social platforms. Then we have clickability from social platforms, clickability from emailers, lead generation from gated content, and then bottom of the funnel KPIs, conversion sales or leads, clickability from social platforms, shareability on social platforms, clickability from emailers. So the reason I want to start getting comfortable with these KPIs is so you can start seeing the end goal. So you can start understanding the types of measurements we use when reviewing our content performance. In the previous week, you got insight into basic website architecture. Now with the thinking and with the KPIs in mind, we need to start looking at optimization. Optimization has got some stereotypical thoughts associated to it, so I just want to clear those up quickly. So optimization doesn't only affect SEO. Remember that there's a social element now to optimization. Optimization is the role of the SEO person. I'd like to start seeing more content writers getting to know these skills, so it will make them a powerhouse in a team environment and a lot more employable. So don't leave it just to the SEO person. Another misconception, optimization is a dying requirement. Absolutely not true. Now with social and more people using search to find products and services, it's a must-have skill. It's actually a foundational skill that everyone needs to know. Optimization has a lot of old school thinking connected to it. And in recent times, I've seen many campaigns fall flat because of these old school tactics that aren't working. So companies are left disillusioned by it and prefer to not even touch it. The problem with that is that then you are only reliant on paid advertising. And without that overall approach, the advertising becomes really expensive. Cost per lead or acquisition starts going up. A team running paid advertising together with organic and social optimization is really your winning performance team.